how it changed. On one day, while that liquor store, because trust me, the city can go after them for 100 times, and they had been going after Happy Liquors. When they organized and they went to court on a Happy's Liquors on a building code violation, okay? They organized. They went to court, not with 1, not with 10, but about 120 to 200 people went to that courtroom. Okay? And then the normal process was, I'm not saying the judge made his determination because people were in court or they weren't in court. What I'm saying is this. After that day, the judge had ordered that licensee into court that afternoon. That afternoon, he said, you got to come to court. Because of the concerns, not only that the city expressed, but the community expressed, by 5 o'clock that day, he was closed until he remedied that, cleared or solved those concerns. And part of him solving that concerns was understanding the community standards. And the community determined, wrote, and worked with the city to make sure those standards are implemented. So those liquor stores, if they're a problem in this community, guess who has the biggest voice? Raise your hand. No, all y'all raise your hand. Right there. So if there's liquor stores here that are a problem, right here, we can start to solve it right here.
I just want to touch on that as well. Because of, yes, I'm from Alderman Pope's office. Because of the concern of the community, there is a liquor moratorium in place in the 10th Ward, which states that no new liquor licenses can come in unless the moratorium is lifted. And the only way the alderman would even consider lifting the moratorium is if the community approved it. We've actually had a couple meetings in the Commercial Avenue, people within the Commercial Avenue that wanted to open up a liquor store. The community said no, the alderman said no. So there is, I mean, and that liquor moratorium was in place because the community requested it.
Well, on the 7th.
Hold on, real quick, I want to add a couple things on the liquor license because there was some stuff.
Well, there were, I mean, these aren't liquor licenses, so the city doesn't have a legal basis for denying licenses or saying you have this community. I mean, Glenn and Estania really addressed that issue. I talked to you about how the mayor feels about it, but I will say that we had some business affairs and consumer protection comes out as part of the blitz. And there were 3 businesses. This first one, I'm assuming it's a business, but I won't give the address. 26, right, it's public, they have a license, well, actually they don't have a license, that's a problem. 2611 East 87th Street, there was a place that was issued a 10-day notice. They were operating without a business license. The J&L Food Mart at 3036 East 87th Street, they were issued a 30-day notice. There are a number of violations here. Outdated, non-perishable food, selling loose cigarettes. And when you all see that happen, call it in. If you see a place that's operating, if a place has a license, but they're operating illegally within that license, they're selling loose cigarettes. If they're selling loose cigarettes, chances are there's food on the shelf that's outdated. Chances are they're doing other things that the city can come in, and this is the case here. So they have out-of-date food on the shelf, and then they're selling loose cigarettes, and they're doing other things. And then at 8900 South Commercial Food and Liquor, there was a citation issued and a 30-day notice to correct, and there were two particular numbers here. And even on that, when the city goes in and takes actions against, so court advocacy works for a lot of things. It just doesn't work for the criminal cases. It also works for the businesses, and Glenn spoke about that a little bit. When the city goes in and takes action against a business, because we are trying to uphold the standards that you want in your community on your behalf, our inspectors are going in to uphold those standards. So whether it's a troubled business, whether it's a troubled building, whatever the case may be, your voice matters. When you participate in that process, the judges listen and they respond accordingly. And then I think the 7th Ward has it.
And I think you have time for licensing.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I'm with business affairs and enforcement investigation. What's really important is what Felicia said. If you know a business that's operating illegally, doing something wrong, of course, let the district know and call 311, let us know. The more violations that are found against a business, the city can do a couple things. Suspend their license for a while and eventually revoke it. It's a bad business. That's what we want to do. but we're only as good as what you guys tell us to do. So that's real important. They have a deleterious impact thing for liquor licenses, where if the residents are around the area of a bad liquor establishment, you can take that, and the city can take their license away just for that. But we have to have proof, we have to have that, they just won't take it away just because we say it's a bad liquor, selling liquor to drunks. We have to have reasons, and, you know, enough violations against them to make it stick. So I mean, that's really important. Call 311. It's real important.
I got one thing on it. In case you guys didn't know, the Cook County Sheriff actually has a sting, and they actually give money back for loose squares. Yolanda Noel, that works in the 4th District CAP's office, she has all that information. I gave it to her a couple of weeks ago, so you actually can get that information. And
We did it yesterday at 87th Street.
Okay, yeah.
We did the same, we do it all the time. We got a place at 38 East 87th Street. Our guys went in there, undercover, and sold them a single cigarette. A lot of tobacco places are the source of problems in communities across the city. And that's why when we do these service lists, we concentrate on places that have tobacco license, liquor license. Police department has a sting for minors, sales of alcohol to minors, and our department has a tobacco sales to minors program that we run throughout the year. So, again, and the county's getting involved in it now too, so it's something real important. You gotta let us know. Call 311 and let us know so we can go after these guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the answer to that question, or statement. All right, we're going to take 2 more questions, and then guess what? We are going to stay here as long as you want to, and we'll talk, but I don't want to hold everybody here because we try to keep these at an hour. Okay? All right.
My question was related to the number of, to the liquor stores. Yeah, the moratorium. How can we become proactive? I understand that doing the court advocacy and, you know, we have a big voice in the community after the fact, but that's being reactive. How can we be proactive? How do I know who's trying to get a liquor license application in my neighborhood and I already have 3 of them on the block?
There's a public notice process in the newspaper. So in community newspapers, there's a notice. They have to publish that there is some so-and-so at this address is seeking a liquor license, and that's an opportunity for the community to comment on that and the potential impact that may have on the community.
Additionally, there's going to be a notice on the actual property that's going to be there that'll tell you that they're applying for a license. I don't know what color it is now. Is
Does
it
the
yellow?
alderman's office have it as well? They have to go through the alderman's office
Yes.
to let them know.
Well,
It should be at your alderman's office.
We get the notices at the office, yes.
The actual address.
And I came from a district, that district where we had a lot of issues with different taverns. And what we did there, it took about a year and a half, but we shut down 7 different taverns. And believe it or not, I should say believe it or not, they had different issues. The ones that we had shut down had gangs, they were selling drugs, the owners were selling drugs, agents for those taverns were selling drugs. So there were different ways to attack those. It's a little bit harder with the liquor establishment. The law's a little bit different. It's how you can catch them doing the things that they're doing wrong. But we attacked that in the 10th district. And like I said, it wasn't just closing them down for a month or so. We had their licenses revoked. But that also, like this initiative here, were things that were told to us by some the neighborhood, people that were concerned. And we also, again, brought in narcotics and were able to shut them down. But at another level, before the licenses are handed out, they're asking for a lot of information, especially from the community. But it comes to myself also. And there has yet been a request that I have approved. And because I know what the struggles were in that district, and I had as early as 2 weeks ago, a young man that was asking for a liquor license or the approval, and I sent sent out a negative reply, a rejection letter, and he came to meet with me. He thought it was more personal, because we don't even know each other. I said, but I know the issues that we had in the 10th district, and I know how hard it is to get a license back or suspended versus just handing one out. And explain to him, you know what, your business might be a successful one, it might not be a successful one, but with the experiences that I've had in the past, I'd rather not and left it at that. But it goes through a bunch of different things. It does come to me for my suggestion. I know I'm not the last to wait approved or denied, but there hasn't been one that has come to me yet that I have not, or that I have approved. Everything has been in denial. But I know what, and unfortunately, I know the negative aspects and what it brings to the community. So it always comes to me, and I know it would take me to say, yes, it's a good news.
Let's take one last question. Let's take one last question. No more questions? Oh, yes, ma'am. Our note taker, thank you very much. The floor is yours.
If there's a moratorium on liquor stores in the 7th Ward, how then does a business get a liquor license in the 7th Ward during the moratorium on liquor licenses?
So, a couple things. Number one, Ian, the 7th is from the 10th ward. The 7th ward is a different ward.
But they do have.
Right, and they have,
Okay, let me say any.
okay.
Let me take
So-
7th Ward out of it anyway.
So, all wards don't have moratoriums, number one. Number two,
I thought you said 7th, but it's.
no, it's the 10th ward, right? And I am not sure the entire 7th ward has moratorium.
But I don't meant the 7th, I meant the 10th.
Oh,
So I'm sorry I said 7th, but I meant.
So the moratorium, pretty much when you put a moratorium in place, you don't necessarily put it on a ward. You do it by blocks. So we did it like in 2-block increments throughout the whole 10th ward. Some people just have them in little areas, some people just have them in certain blocks that are problem buildings, problem blocks. But in order to get a license, if there is a moratorium in place, you'd have to lift the moratorium. And when you lift it, it brings other problems because you lift it in that whole area, in that increment that was in place. So like, let's say it was from like 87 to 89 or 87 to 90th, it would lift it on all that area. Just Alderman Pope's requirements is he won't lift the moratorium unless he's already had a meeting with the community, a public meeting. The communities, we flyer, we put out the notices, and if the community is in favor, that's a whole different story. But if they're not, then it's automatically a no. We've had plenty of meetings. The moratorium has been in place for, I want to say, for at least 3 years. In that time, we've had many meetings of many interested liquor stores, and it's been a no. We've also had some yeses, like the Walgreens on 118th and Avenue. They had their meeting. They were okay with it. They got their license. So when I say we've denied all of them, but obviously it's what the community wants.
We have it in the 7th Ward, what it allows you to do is weed out some of
The
the
re-
stores that are there already.
The reason we did it in 2-block increments was because when you lift it, that way you're not lifting it in a big area.
so let's talk about this. And guess what we're going to talk about this next?
Friday.
Date night, Friday, 6 o'clock. You know what the conversation is going to be about. And we can talk about it because here's the most important part of that. When the community organizes, then we can address these issues and deal with those liquor stores that are a problem. Now, I'm not going to tell you it's going to be solved overnight, because it's not. I'm not going to tell you it's going to be solved easily, because it's not. It's going to take a lot of hard work of the community, but we can address the issue. And sometimes we might not close it, but they will adjust our community standards. That they shall. All right?
I'd like to set Marlene Hopkins is managing. Marlene, abandoned buildings are usually an area that many communities have problems with, challenges with. And I like to make sure part of what we do is educating people about the processing. So just like tonight, I think everybody here learned something about moratoriums and the things that communities can do around liquor stores. The other thing is from an abandoned building standpoint, I think it's important for communities to know and understand, because all of these things are legal processes, right? It's a property owner somewhere, it could be a bank, or it could be, you know, your grandmother passed away and that property is owned by the family. So the city just can't just come in necessarily, or there are certain requirements where the city can, and Marlene can talk about how the city can come in and take over a property and the legal process that has to happen for that to be proper.
Good evening. Again, my name is Marlene Hopkins with the Department of Buildings. So, we respond to 311 service requests. So if there is a vacant building on your block around the